Hello! Cold summer in California this year. Does not feel like summer at all. Let's talk about chrism today. What is chrism? Well, it is the most sacred oil of Old Testament. It's the oil that was used to anoint all the kings and priests of Israel and to anoint all the implements in the temple. So they would anoint the Ark of the Covenant and the altar and the lamps, everything else that was of significance. And the oil is sacred. It was in fact so sacred that if you touched the object that was anointed with this oil, you became sacred by contact. What an interesting idea! And of course, nobody outside of kings and priests of Israel was allowed to touch this oil. You would get kicked out of Israel for actually putting this oil on somebody who was not a king or priest of Israel. You can look it up in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, chapter 30. In the back, in the footnotes, I'll provide all the relevant information, all the links that you need to know, including how to make this oil at home, which is very easy actually, but you have to be very, very careful. Hopefully you understand why when I'm finished with this video and share some of my experiences. I'm a medical oncologist. I work with patients who are often in a very dire situation, and it's often too late to really do much and help much except relieve suffering and help with comfort. In addition, of course, to aggressively treating where possible with chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and all kinds of tools we have available. More and more sophisticated tools, genetic therapies. We are getting closer. We're inching closer and closer to the cure. But we don't have cures for most of cancers. And there are many other incurable diseases that still need help. There are also many chronic diseases where Western medicine is not really that helpful. We don't really have much of a help or treatment for arthritis, for example, that cripples so many people. It's such a common condition. So what does this oil do? Why is it such a big deal? And why so many translations of the Bible hides the fact that it contains massive amounts of cannabis? It took a Polish scientist, a woman, and you can also look at the links under this video, to discover the origins and meaning of the word cannabis that was used in this recipe. And by the way, the recipe comes directly from God. Interesting, right? And so she found that this word actually meant cannabis, not some aromatic herb or some other stuff that people translated as. It's translated many different things to distract from the fact that it's really cannabis. It's a sacred plant to many religions, not just Christianity and Judaism. Interesting secret. Well, but going back to this oil, it's relatively straightforward. You can make it microwave in a few minutes, literally. If you live in California, you need cannabis concentrate, you need the olive oil, and 3 different essential oils. And I actually provide another link to specific instructions how to make this at home. And those 3 different essential oils are cinnamon, Cassia, and Myrrh. Not too many ingredients, easy to make, but you have to be very, very careful. So the thing is that this oil belongs to an older class of medications or topicals, which are called counter-irritants. Not very popular those days. Why? Well, because they cause skin irritation to treat deeper conditions inside your body. So let's say if you were to treat your arthritis and try to use this oil for that, you would apply it on the surface. And as a result, you would get skin inflammation that looks like poison oak. That it's could be pretty nasty depending how much oil you put in. So you have to be very, very, very careful with this oil. Never put it on large body areas, especially if you're doing it first time. It's really dangerous. You can basically end up in an emergency room with massive skin inflammation. So how does this oil work? What it does? We can get into all biological mechanisms and stuff like that, but what it does from a practical point of view, if you apply to it, let's say over a particular place that you have trouble with, result may be very unpredictable. It's a sacred medicine. So that means sometimes you apply it to, let's say, elbow that you have problems with, and you don't see any effects. You just smell nice, and that's okay. Another time, you will find that after application, the oil causes burning, and people describe it as burning like a fire. And that happens relatively quickly, within minutes from application, and it doesn't last very long, minute or two, but it really burns. It's very unpleasant. You can distract yourself with something else or rub it or do something else, but it's gone relatively quickly. Then, a few hours later, you will likely experience itching in that place. Skin will get flushed. If you have, for example, cold feet, say poor circulation, you apply this oil, your feet become alive, they become flushed and red, and you feel like circulation is returning. So that may happen over this elbow that you apply this oil to, except afterwards you get rash. Like next day, the rash appears in that location. That looks just like poison oak. And amount of that rash depends on how much of the oil do you apply. It doesn't travel like with poison oak. With poison oak, if you're familiar with it, if you get exposed in one particular location, it can spread to other parts of your body because it's an oil that causes this. Not in this case. So it only works where you applied it. And of course, you can wipe it off and so on. But point is that it works intensely, and you do not want to apply it to larger body areas. That's the most important point. If you experiment with it, do it very carefully. Be respectful, because it is a sacred medicine. And be super, super careful. That's, again, my main message when experimenting with this. My patients have been applying to skin. I had patients also who took it by mouth. And it tastes just like sweet cinnamon. They apply a few drops by mouth. So not like teaspoon or anything like that. It's nicely smelling, but intensely burning oil. So you do not want to put it on your mucous membranes or eyes, nose, near any of those places. Like, you wouldn't want poison oak in certain spots. That's where you want to probably avoid your oil. You may consider those spots later after years of experimenting with it and you feel comfortable. That's a different story. Or you're a physician and you want to do experiments, go for it. But we're still learning how to use it. So good luck. If you are curious about this oil, be very careful, experiment, and share your experiences. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. And hopefully this oil will help you with whatever problems you have.